Okay, moving on to item 23-0772, discussion and possible action regarding potential violations of the city charter and employment contract as outlined by the complaint filed by Commissioner McDowell against City Manager Jerome Fletcher, City Clerk. This is your item.
This was in regards to the complaint filed by Commissioner McDowell against City Manager Jerome Fletcher, and it was carried over from the last meeting.
Okay, thank you, City Clerk. Before I open up the floor to commission questions, just as background, all four commissioners and city manager are in receipt of a 4-page complaint with 37 pages of backup material prepared by Commissioner McDowell and submitted to the city's HR director and city attorney requesting an investigation into the city manager's actions. So the decision today will be around whether or not to request that investigation. So I think based on those documentations, I think we have a pretty good idea of what Commissioner McDowell's issues are. So I'd like to suggest the following, 10 minutes. I'd like to have city manager's perspective on the situation. Then we'll have 2 rounds of 5 minutes each for the remaining 4 commissioners to share their points of view on the matter, and then give 10 minutes for Commissioner McDowell to share whatever she feels is necessary at that point. If by the time we finish that, it's the will of this board to extend the conversation, we can certainly do that. I just want to make sure that everyone has equal opportunity to either ask their questions or make their statements on this matter. City Manager, let me just say before we start that I hope that this conversation doesn't become a litany of complaints. I would certainly hope that part of our conversation today would be identifying steps we might take as a path forward to resolve this situation. But City Manager, this is your 10 minutes.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate it. First of all, let me thank Dr. Baskin and Mr. Rico for their guidance in the session that we just had. Should have helped influence all of our responses to the complaint that we're addressing right now. The first thing I'll say is that several of these items fall into a similar bucket of explanation. When we look at the submittal of the federal appropriations, that is not something new. We have done that for the same way for 3 years, and our grant manager has processed those in the exact same way, and never has there been a discussion on it. The Warm Mineral Springs passes, that is an operational decision that was caused due to us changing multiple vendors over a short period of time. So we did what was in the best interest to make sure that the process was running operational and smoothly. When you look at the pay study and the Good Neighbor program, these are not new items. These are items that are being brought back up because of a resolution that was not agreed upon. The pay study, when we moved those funds from one area to another, it was well within the rights and authority of the city manager to do so, especially during a time where our staffing levels were suffering based on the economy and everything was going on. The Good Neighbor program, which didn't even occur but was proposed, the intent of that program was to reinstitute a program similar to one in the past where we were trying to rally our community and come together for unity in order to handle difficult situations. And it would have been a great thing to have had we had it prior to Hurricane Ian last year. The comment about the Northport Squared situation, the commissioner was given information regarding the resolution that was being compiled and composed. No money has been distributed because the program is not active. It was only active to receive applications. So, and the commissioner was well aware of that as the conversation went through the city attorney's office. The Northport United speaking engagements, we're happy to go do a sponsorship if that will solve that issue there and make sure that we are not in any sort of discompliance with partnering with a nonprofit, which I believe the city has already expressed its desires to be a stronger partner with our nonprofits as well. The incubator conversation that was listed in the complaint was not accurate. There is no young entrepreneur program. The city has been involved in roundtable discussions as a convener of those partners who are trying to solve for a common problem, which is the Hive building, which was destroyed due to the hurricane, and being able to provide a new short-term space as well as a long-term vision for this particular effort. We have put out 2 memos to all of the commissioners and the public stating where we are at in those efforts. We were partnering with the State College of Florida, and we are trying to find a location. But when we met with Greg Bidet from the Department of Economic, I think, Development Opportunity, we were now put on a timeline of having to apply for some funding prior to his recess in August as well. So we took that opportunity to move that forward, knowing that it was well within our right. But when you look at that, you will see that that intent also is designed to ensure that we uplift our community. When you talk about the outstanding springs and the designation for it, we had 2 policy conflicting directives, one of which was to push forward the outstanding springs designation, which we advanced at the end of November, maybe the early parts of December, which was still multiple weeks following the hurricane. But prior to the hurricane, we actually were given direction to make sure that we explore the P3 partnership. And that P3 partnership is something of the larger vision of what this body is trying to solve for. And knowing that we were trying once again for the outstanding springs designation, which we had not been successful in prior years, nor did we lose any opportunity cost for funding, which it was misstated as well. I took the decision to make sure that we chose the path that was in alignment with the best interests of the board. It was not intentional for any way to say that, well, we or I do not care about Warren Middle Springs, because as I've proven, we put a lot of time and effort and a transparent communication through what we're doing, where we're going, and the steps of that process. But like we just talked about in our communication resolution meeting, it all, to me, boils down to the intent of what I am trying to establish in this city and this area. I believe that we are at a very critical point where we have to stand up and make sure that we continue to do the right thing, and we continue to answer for ourselves and explain ourselves. And the attacks from our public, they are very well expected. There's nothing new there. You can express yourself any way you want because that's your right. But when you have someone who questions your intent on things that you do on a daily basis from within the team, then I think that's where we have to put our foot down. And I think that when you look at what I've done over the body of work that I've done it for the year and a half that I've been here, I think it speaks for itself. So I do not need to, nor will I, go and get into a back and forth regarding what I've done, because I believe that based on the other feedback from everyone else on this board, from the community and our business partners, lends to my level and my body of work. I do believe that we need to just be prepared to move on. One of the facilitators today said, let's not look back. So you know what? If we're not looking back, we need to move on. We need to move on with the same spirit and the energy that this community expects. We need to move on without pointing fingers. We need to move on and get things done. It does not mean that we will forget what has happened, because I think that's how more mistakes could happen, but we need to move on and not allow what I believe to be 20% of our board to be 80% of our time. We spent an entire day based on this request from one commissioner. We are now talking about a complaint of items that some are multiple years old from one commissioner. We really need to have a better balance and make sure that we move on and are able to accomplish the work of the city. Madam Mayor and other commissioners, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have regarding any of the other items of complaint that you would like me to discuss.